Okay. So good evening, friends. I'm going to share a small video of Krishnaji, which is basically a conversation between Krishnaji and Mary Zimbalist. So we'll just listen to that video. And after that, we can share our understanding based on the theme of that video. So just give me a minute. I'll try and share the screen. Can you see the video now?
It is video is okay.
Okay.
Sound to check.
Sound is okay, or you want me to increase the sound?
Sound. It is not at present. It is not coming because there is no audio at present. What I think. When he starts conversing.
So please, as the speaker puts into words, examine that which he says for yourself. Because doubt, skepticism is a great purifier. Most of us are so easily accept things, especially in religious matters, so-called spiritual. Please don't accept a thing what the speaker is saying, but try to find out for yourself by carefully listening if you are interested. If you don't treat this as an entertainment, then please listen, doubt, question, ask. You are doubting that which you have created yourself. You are doubting your own ideas, your own conclusions, your own experiences, your beliefs, your faiths. You are doubting so that you find out for yourself what is true.
Part of Krishnaji's teaching, and he told all of us this, he said, you must not be dependent. You're all dependent. You've been dependent on me, and that mustn't be. And he put it to me straight between the eyes. He said, "Are you dependent on me?" Meaning psychologically and emotionally. And I was able to reply, "No, I'm not." In public, when he spoke, was an extraordinarily compelling figure. Without doing anything, he riveted the attention of a vast number of people and did it without just being the way he spoke. It was an authority, which is not the kind of authority that one sees in other people. It was the authority of someone who's speaking about something that he sees very clearly at a great depth. And but his manner always was one of grace and a tremendous dignity, which he wasn't even aware of.
Truth demands a free mind. Mind that is completely free. To doubt requires sensitivity. If you doubt everything, then this becomes rather stupid. But to doubt with light hand, with a quick mind, with subtlety, then the doubt brings about clarity, energy. And we need energy to go into all these problems.
On long motor trips, he described the whole hierarchy of what was believed by the TS and what he obviously was exposed to in his youth, his real childhood. But as he said, he heard it all and it went like out. And it went in one ear and out the other, although it was familiar to him. That leads me to talk about something that I feel is very important in when one considers Krishnamurti's teachings, and that is that the child, as far as one could tell from his own descriptions, was what he called completely vacant. There was an emptiness of mind, which in a way seems to be a possible explanation of the source of his teachings. That he wasn't conditioned by the way the rest of us are normally. He knew how to behave and talk and all the things on an ordinary day level. But as far as what his teachings were about, there was no trace of any other influence in that. But he did know enough about the Buddha and the Buddha's teachings to have a great feeling for the Buddha. It's the only person who seemed to speak of with great respect and reverence.
Scientists, politicians, the educational people, the religious people, they are responsible, but I know nothing about it, I just follow. That's the general attitude right through the world.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I make myself irresponsible. By delegating responsibility to you, I become irresponsible. Whereas now we are saying, nobody is responsible except you. Because you are the world and the world is you. You have created this mess. You alone can bring about clarity. Therefore, you are totally, utterly, completely responsible. And nobody else. That means you have to be a light to yourself. Not the light of a professor or an analyst or a psychologist or the light of Jesus or the light of the Buddha. You have to be a light to yourself in a world that is utterly becoming dark.
He gave what I feel is the most revolutionary teaching in the sense of what life is about and what human beings are about. And even Buddhism, which I know very little about, so I shouldn't make a comparison, I would say that there are similarities, but the similarities are, well, in particular, he did not want followers, he did not want disciples, he did not want any of that. And there was no systematized religion. Now, whether, again, my ignorance of Buddhism is endless. So that may have been all formed after the Buddha died. But there is I know that Buddhists today, we have the talks that are going to be a book now. Not the talks, the discussions that were held with Buddhists in England, Dr. Ahura in particular. And they, of course, in the discussion would say, the Buddha says this, what you say this, what is the relationship? And the Krishnaji would say, never mind what the Buddha said. What do you think? You know, he was interested in the living thinking of someone like that. He wasn't for dogma. On the contrary, he was totally dismissed it.
That means you have the responsibility. Now, what does that word mean? It means real, to respond totally, adequately to every challenge. You cannot possibly respond adequately if you are rooted in the past. Because the challenge is new. Otherwise, it's not a challenge. A crisis is new. Otherwise, it's not a crisis. That's why. Responsibility means total commitment.
Total commitment.
Total commitment to the challenge. Responding adequately, completely to a crisis. That the word responsibility means that. To respond. I cannot respond completely if I'm frightened. Or I cannot respond completely if I'm seeking pleasure. I cannot respond totally if my action is routine, is repetitive, is traditional, is conditional. So to respond adequately to a challenge means the me, which is the past, must end.
The source was Krishnamurti himself. Now there are a whole people who believe that there is some other something that he was in contact isn't the right word, but that had a meaning to him. I've never heard him show any sign of that. He would, for instance, he would not prepare talks, but there were certain conditions that made it possible for him to talk. Some of them were physical. Some of them were he would have a certain amount of rest and a certain amount of eating properly and watching his health. He took great care of his health simply in order to be able to live the life he led and travel and talk. Because he always said that the day that he can't do that physically, his life would end. And indeed, that's what happened. And he was aware of that. And but he did not like to, he would not prepare a talk almost deliberately, in the sense that when he was in the speaking situation, he would speak, but not to plan it ahead of time. Many's the time I've driven him to the talk, and he would say in the car, I don't know what I'll talk about. And I never said a word in reply, but almost invariably, the talk that then took place was extraordinary. I mean, even more extraordinary than others.
Violence is not only physical, but great deal, much more psychological. When I conform to a pattern, when I'm being allowed to be programmed. You understand? When you tell me what I should do, because for the good of my soul or my psyche, and you become the authority. So when I accept authority, there is violence. Right? Psychological, of course, There is the authority of the computer, the authority of law, the authority of the policeman who say keep to the left or right. If you drive in Europe, you keep to the right. If you right in England or here, which is it? Left? Yes, left. Left. No, right? Right. I haven't driven lately. Yes, I've walked down to the left, walk up the right. That's my right. So, violence must exist where, that part of it, where out of my confusion, disorder, I create authority. You understand? I'm confused. I'm disturbed. I want certainty. And you come along, the guru, the priest, the psychologist, the others, and they become the authority. I have created them out of my confusion, my disorder. So I realize as long as there is an authority subjectively, either the experience which I've had, the memory of that experience which becomes the authority, follow all this, or the authority of somebody who says, I know, I will tell you all about it. The nasty, ugly gurus do all this, coining money. They are one of the most rich people in the world. Your evangelists, churches, tremendous organizations. They say, have faith, believe, accept. And I'm so frightened, I say this, I'm gullible, I accept it. So I'm creating out of my disorder authority.
I can't explain it. I can't even describe it. It was as though there was a presence. I don't know. There was a kind of vibrance in the air that was intangible, but somehow one felt something. Religion. Now, whether, again, my ignorance of Buddhism is endless. So that may have been all formed after the Buddha died. But there is I know that Buddhists today, we have the talks that are going to be a book now. Not the talks, the discussions that were held with Buddhists in England, Dr. Ahura in particular. And they, of course, in the discussion would say, the Buddha says this, what, you say this, what is the relationship? And he would, the Krishnaji would say, never mind what the Buddha said. What do you think? You know, he was interested in the living thinking of someone like that. He wasn't for dogma. On the contrary, he was totally dismissed it.
That means you have been responsible. Now, what does that word mean? It means real, to respond totally, adequately to every challenge. You cannot possibly respond adequately if you are rooted in the past. Because the challenge is new. Otherwise, it's not a challenge. A crisis is new. Otherwise, it's not a crisis. That's why. Responsibility means total commitment.
Total commitment.
total commitment to the challenge, responding adequately, completely to a crisis. That is, that the word responsibility means that. To respond. I cannot respond completely if I'm frightened. Or I cannot respond completely if I'm seeking pleasure. I cannot respond totally if my action is routine, is repetitive, is traditional, is conditioned. So to respond adequately to a challenge means the me, which is the part, must end.
The source was Krishnamurti himself. Now there are a whole people who believe that there is some other something that he was in contact isn't the right word, but that had a meaning to him. I've never heard him show any sign of that. He would, for instance, he would not prepare talks, but there were certain conditions that were made it possible for him to talk. Some of them were physical. Some of them were he would have a certain amount of rest and a certain amount of eating properly and watching his health. He took great care of his health simply in order to be able to live the life he led and travel and talk. Because he always said that the day that he can't do that physically, his life would end. And indeed, that's what happened. And he was aware of that. And but he did not like to, he would not prepare a talk almost deliberately, in the sense that when he was in the speaking situation, he would speak, but not to plan it ahead of time. Many's the time I've driven him to the talk, and he would say in the car, I wonder what I'll talk about. And I never said a word in reply, but almost invariably, the talk that then took place was extraordinary. I mean, even more extraordinary than others.
Violence is not only physical, but great deal, much more psychological. When I conform to a pattern, when I'm being allowed to be programmed. Understand? When you tell me what I should do, because for the good of my soul or my psyche or whatever it is, and you become the authority. So when I accept authority, there is violence. Right? Psychological, of course. There is the authority of the computer, the authority of law, the authority of the policeman who say keep to the left or right. If you drive in Europe, you keep to the right. If you write in England or here, which is it? Left? Yes, left. Left. No, right? Right. I haven't driven lately. Yes, I've walked down to the left, walk up the right. That's quite right. So, violence must exist where, that part of it, where out of my confusion, disorder, I create authority. You understand? I'm confused. I'm disturbed. want certainty. And you come along, the guru, the priest, the psychologist, the others, and they become the authority. I have created them out of my confusion, my disorder. So I realize, as long as there is an authority subjectively, either the experience which I've had, the memory of that experience which becomes the authority, follow this, or the authority of somebody who says, I know, I will tell you all about it. The nasty, ugly gurus do all this, coining money. They are one of the most rich people in the world. They are evangelists, churches, tremendous organizations. They say, have faith, believe, accept. And I'm so frightened, actually, I'm gullible, I accept. So I'm creating out of my disorder a thought.
I can't explain it. I can't even describe it. It was as though there was a presence. I don't know. There was a kind of vibrance in the air that was intangible, but somehow one felt something. Now, whether that was nothing or imagination, or was something that he felt and saw, that we felt to a lesser degree, I don't know. I can't. But it was happened a number of times. And I've talked to doctors about it, or one particular doctor in Switzerland who knew him well and who treated him there. And she said that what happened under the puppetry does not conform to any disease, any illness, any condition of the body. It isn't a medically explained fact. And yet these horrendous things happened to them. And the theory then was that the word entities who were operating on his brain. And it caused this excruciating pain. It's hard to read. It's so harrowing. And but I don't know. There was a great, enormous amount of mystery about Krishnaji, and I think this is my own interpretation now, but the level of inquiry about these things is one that beware of making interpretations as long as you haven't gone that far in your own understanding and self-discovery. So they're mysterious, and I think mystery has a meaning. It makes a possibility that there are other states of consciousness, the states of, I don't like to use enlightenment as the term, because that's so sort of a cliche, really. Who knows what enlightenment is? And if you do, as Krishnaji himself said, if you say you're enlightened, you can be sure the person isn't. And I think that's sensible. But there's a great deal of mystery about this.
You are second-hand people. Don't pretend you're not. You're second-hand, sloppy, shoddy people. And you are trying to find something that is original. The reality is original. It's not colored by all the priests in the world. It's original. Therefore, you must have an original mind, which means a free mind. Not an original painting, a new picture, a new this, that's all, Tommy wrong. But a free mind. A free mind that can function in the field of knowledge, and a free mind that can look, observe, learn. Now, how do you help another? Or is it not possible to be free? Look, I never belong to anything. I'm no church or no belief, no all that. A man who really wants to find out if there is eternal, the nameless, something beyond all things, he must naturally set aside everything built up. The savior, the masters, the gurus, the knowledge, all that is. Are there people to do that? Will anybody undertake that job? Or is it, well, you tell me all about it, old boy, I'll sit comfortably, and then you tell me.
Yes, that's what goes on.
I say, I won't describe that. I won't tell you a thing about it. That's to put it into words is to destroy.
He would say, not just to me, but to those close to him, there's certain things that he could not talk about. He said, I'm not allowed to, which is a curious way of putting it. But he felt, I think we've discussed this, or it's well known, he felt very much that something else controlled his life. What that was, he did not describe. But he was, he would refer to it. Other things, something else decides what happens to me, he said, particularly with regard to his life, how long he would live. And more than, he had a sense also, I'm sure that this has been recorded by other people, of being protected by something. What it was, he did not divulge. But the implication was that something, a powerful something, was in charge of his life. And but what that was, he did not describe.
So let us see, if you cannot be free, what are you frightened? Frightened of authority, frightened of going wrong, but you are completely wrong the way you live. Completely stupid the way you are carrying. There's no meaning. Keep, follow self. Deny the spiritual authority of every kind. What are you frightened of? Going wrong spiritually? They are wrong, not you are. Because you are just learning. They are the established in the unrighteousness. Beautiful. Yeah. And so why do you follow them? Why do you accept? They are degenerate. And can you be free from them? Search your mind through meditation, which we'll discuss at another time. What it means to be free, what it means to wipe away all the things that people have put on you, so that you are innocent. Your mind is never hurt, is incapable of being hurt. That is what innocence means. And from that, and let's take a journey from there. From this sense of negation of everything that thought is put together. Because thought is time. Thought is matter. And if you are living in the field of thought, there will be never freedom. Unless this is told, repeated, shown to them. They can talk endlessly about this. This comes from this. Then we can read the books.
But he simply was clearly an extraordinary and very mysterious person. One didn't, the kind of judgments we all make about each other were not to be made about Krishnamurti. I felt, and that's not just the excess of admiration or devotion. He was of a different order of human beings. And it was somehow natural that he should be there. There was a very, very strong feeling for me and others too, that this was, there was something sacred about this man and his life and what he was doing. And it was palpable. You know, being with him, there were times when you or I, in this case, sensed that he was rather far away and not to intrude on it. He was showing the wholly wrong way that human beings have approached life and the understanding of life, and that is that he was giving a way of not echoing always the past. He said human beings live in the past. We're all live in thought, the whole business about thought, which you know very well. Most people never live in the present at all. They either live in the past or they project the past into tomorrow and the next year and so forth. And to show that that is a false way of living, and not more than false, it's doesn't correspond to reality. He was trying to get people to see that the human brain needs to, through attention, he said, attention is the whole thing that will enable people to see the falseness of the way they're thinking. And every religion that I've ever heard of is full of tradition, and you must do what Shankara said, whenever it was, and you must do what St. Paul said, and so forth and so on. That is totally contrary to what the human being should be doing, which is to perceive reality, things as they are this moment.
I'm sorry, there was some repetition of the video. I think there was a power failure and it got started again about 3-4 minutes. We had to go back. Sorry about that. Yes, Harshad bhai, please unmute yourself.
Hello. Thank you, Dubey ji. The topic today is authority and freedom. And to me, they are very much related, because a person who is free will not accept any authority, but a person who is not free, who is confused, will create authority. And maybe most people like that. We are not born free. we have problems, and sometimes some human beings, if they are really good, like Krishna ji, they can help. So teachers are necessary, but for a person like Krishnamurti, he did not need any teacher because he was very clear. So most of the thing what Krishna ji is saying, it seems very obvious to me because he says, if you are confused, you cannot see things clearly. So it is obvious. And when we are confused, then what do? Either somebody shows us how to think, how to question, and I myself learned from the book of Krishnamurti, and he was asking many questions, showing how we live our daily life. And so through his words, I could begin to see in myself what is happening, how we create problems for ourselves, and so on. So teachers, in my view, teachers are necessary as long as you are not clear. But when you are free, you don't need any authority, and then you can see for yourself. And even if what Krishna ji says, it doesn't make any sense to you, you can not accept Krishnamurti and will say that, no, sir, I do not agree with you. I see in a different way. So it requires clarity to see things independently and without the teacher. So in my imagination, once I had a conversation between Krishnamurti and Buddha had gone to Sarnath. Krishnamurti had gone to Sarnath, and in my imagination, Krishnamurti saw that Buddha was speaking, and after Buddha spoke, and Buddha said, "Do you want to ask any question?" And Krishnaji said, "Beloved teacher, can I ask you a question?" And Buddha said, "Yes, young man, you can ask any question. My disciples will be it will be very helpful to my disciples." And so one of the questions which Krishnaji asked, it says to Buddha, "Why do you allow your your disciples to chant Buddham Sharanam Gacchami? Are you not making your student dependent on you?" And Buddha said, "Yes, you are right. As long as they are not very clear, they will be with me and they will get help from me. But once they understand what I am saying, what Buddha is saying, then they will not remain with me, with Buddha, and they will go on their own way." So it is very clear that as long as we are not clear, we will create an authority, and sometimes that authority can be helpful, and sometimes it is not helpful. It depends on what kind of the teacher is. And also Krishnamurti's teaching can also make many people more conflict also. So there is a danger in accepting what Krishnamurti is saying. If I am helped by a guru and that is really helping me, then that is good for me. But if I leave that guru and I also don't understand Krishnamurti, then I will be lost and will will deteriorate. So one needs the intelligence to see whether we need a guru or not. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Subha. Yes, Prasad Garu, please unmute yourself.
Sir, there is a book called Siddhartha, titled Siddhartha,
Yes,
by Hermann Hesse.
yes.
I read it long ago. but it made a very lasting impression on me. The hero is a young Brahmin boy. He doesn't like anything. He doesn't like anything that is taught to him or anything like that. He had a friend, Govinda. His name is Govinda. One day he goes to with his friend, both of them. He leaves everybody, only Govinda accompanies him, and both of them go to listen to Buddha. And Buddha was in a crowd. Then the Siddhartha tells Govinda, he is Buddha. He locates Buddha. He tells him, he identifies him and he says he is Buddha. Govinda says, how do you know that he is Buddha? He is wearing the same robes as other monks. He says, you can identify him because peace is exuding out of his fingernails. So there is something in Buddha, you can locate him. But you can locate him only when there is something of Buddha in you. So then Govinda says, I will go and join Buddha and I will be one of the monks, his monks. Siddhartha says, no, I won't become. Why? Why don't you become a monk? Then he says, I know, if at all I take a guru, it shall be Buddha. But I don't want to take any guru. So he goes his own way. And then he experiences a life. He goes to a courtesan. And then he goes to her and he says, Kamala is her name. Kamala, make me immortal with a kiss. Then that lady asks him, what can you give me? You have no money? What can you give me? What can you do? He says, I can think, I can fast. He says something else also. I can think, I can fast. I remember those two words, but there is another word.
Yeah.
I can fast. I can think, I can fast. Yes. So
And
like
I
that,
have patience. Patience.
yes, I can be patient. Yes, sir. Correct. So then he lives with her. Ultimately, when he leaves her, goes back, he contemplates his Brahminical chants and all that, goes back. So ultimately, he becomes a kind of Buddha himself in his own way, not the way of Buddha, not the way of Govinda, not the way of other monks, but his own way, he becomes a Buddha. He becomes a boatsman. There is another boatsman, both of them. Everybody gets to know that there are two wise people on Ganges. They are running the ferry and all that. So, sir, the point is, you can learn, you can become wise by many means, in many methods. There is no one method. So you can reject all gurus and still be somebody wise. Possibly it is that. But for me, what Krishnaji says makes great sense. Why do we want a guru at all? I don't know. I mean, once you see the falseness of accepting a guru, his suggestions and all that, Krishnaji says not only an outside guru is not required, but your own experience, your own opinions, the inner authority of yourself. That is what most of us have. All of us have a tendency to think that we know something. We don't know anything. Can you be fresh every day? Only observation, not your background. Observation without your background, your baggage. That is, I think, what he is suggesting. So, and he calls us second-hand, sloppy, shoddy people because we live in the past. So, and it is also correct to me because you can't respond properly so long as you are rooted in the past, you are rooted in your experience, so are rooted in some teaching, whatever teaching it is. And this, I admire his, honesty and boldness. He says, your evangelists, he is talking about them, that they are just money-making machines. He is addressing the Western audience. He is telling them, your Christian evangelists are all the type of money-making machines. So, thank you, sir. That's it.
Thank you, Prasad Garu. Thank you.
May I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Yes. Here, Mary Zimbalist says that Krishnamurti's life was very mysterious, and very few people, or probably nobody, knew what was going on in his body and his brain. And when Krishnamurti was giving public talks and having dialogues, he seemed to be quite different. But Mary Zimbalist also had lived with Krishnamurti in a daily life, and she had felt that in many ways Krishnamurti was like any other human being, and he had moods. He had some kind of fear of going in the dark at night because some evil spirit around, and Krishnamurti was aware of this. So there are many things which she has written in her autobiography, which makes Krishnamurti a very human being, just like us. So there is two personalities of Krishnamurti. On one side, when he is giving public talks and dialogues, he is very, very clear, very passionate, but he used to get tired also, and he used to react also when there were problems in Brookwood Park. He was angry also with some staff. So we must not accept everything and think that we can live moment by moment every day with newness, freshness. That becomes a kind of an ideal, that to live every day, every moment, fresh, new. But we get that kind of concept from reading and listening to Krishnamurti, and he is very powerful speaker. And so we make some concept out of it. And that can be very dangerous, and sometimes it can make us feel very depressed. And we feel that we have really not got the real freedom what Krishnamurti is talking about. And so there can be more conflict in our life. But if we can see ourselves as we are, if there is anger is arising, we can see it, then it's okay. If there is any imagination, because Krishnamurti says imagination prevents you from looking at what is, but one can look at the imagination also. So there is no problem, I feel, even with thinking and imagination, as long as there is this awareness goes on. But when there is no awareness, then thinking will create many reactions, many problems. So what I would like to say is that we must not make a concepts out of Krishnamurti's powerful speaking and think that it is possible to live every day fresh every moment with newness. But it can happen if we are really deeply interested, and some changes may happen in our body and brain. And then it may happen that this awareness becomes effortless. But that is very rare. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Harshad Bhai. I think it is very common for people who have lived with Krishnaji very closely to describe his personal life and bring in mysteries and all that. But I think it's important for all of us to limit ourselves to his teachings rather than Krishnaji as a person. As Harshad Bhai mentioned, he was a human being. He had all the failings of a human being, but that is not of much importance to us. It's a fact that his presence was indeed overwhelming. If you sit in his presence and listen to his talk, you feel as if he's talking to you and everything goes through your bones. But ultimately, it's us who have to work hard and understand everything that he's talking about and test it in our daily life. So I think the whole idea is that we should just listen to what he's saying and look deeply inside ourselves as to whether this is true or not for me. I just wanted to add this. Thank you. Verma Sahib, you want to say something, Dr. Pradeep Verma? Let's hear to Mr. Ravi Kaushal. Yes, unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are. No, we are not able to hear you. You are muted again. Please unmute.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are now. Yeah.
Okay. I'm saying that the Prasad is saying that you can understand life by any means, by any method. This I object. It is the same movement of the mind that think in terms of the method and means. I'm saying that when we are going to understand that there is no mean at all, when the mind understands this, that is the most important thing. When the mind understands there is no means at all, there is no method. When you understand this, you don't think in terms of time, psychological time. Another thing is that thing you already said, that do not judge the K or Y or Z by his behavior and all. But what he said, what the teacher said, and then when you're saying that the teaching is important, so you're in a way giving importance to the image. And when you said that listening to the K is important, and that I think that it is the listening which is important. When you listen everybody as you listen the K. And another thing which I listened is, I forgot. 2-3 things I see that listening.
Okay, you can come back
And
later.
the freedom, and freedom and authority. Chaliye, we will talk. Okay.
No, if you want to say something, yeah, please go ahead.
I forgot, sir. let's
Okay.
talk again.
Yes, Dr. Pradeep Verma.
Yes, sir. Not much to say because the message is very loud and clear. Very loud and clear. That do we have a center in us? Do we, whether the self in any form at that moment is working as an impediment to see or hear or anything, perception. So it's very clear, this simple thing, very simple. Are you like a mirror in which everything reflects as such? That's all. That what you call your emptiness, not knowingness. So this is very clear, not much to debate about. Can I see as such? And that is only possible when my entire energy is available to respond to the challenge, which is ever new, which he was talking about. And this is a fact. Not many questions, no question about it. It's so obvious. One can see it once and again and again and again and enjoy the freshness. That is what it is all about. Thank you. Not much to say anything.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I make a comment
Yes, please.
about method? When Krishnaji says you must doubt everything, be skeptical, then is that not a kind of a method, I would say, or this inquiry or listening? So when you doubt, in order to be clear, it means that there is an entity which is doubting. But if doubt comes spontaneously, if a question comes spontaneously without any motivation, then when the question comes, is it possible, is that question very, very important question, and can the mind become silent to just look at the question? So all this is a very important because I feel that many people who have read Krishnamurti, they have got into this habit of asking questions, but then maybe they don't have the ability to look non-verbally at their own, what is happening within them, and allow everything, whatever is happening, to unfold and not go in any specific direction. So what I'm saying, that whatever you do can be called a method, and just looking, listening, it could be a method, or it could be, if it is happening without any motive, then there is no method. Otherwise, when there is a motive, then there is a self which wants to understand. So there is a self already exists there. Okay, I have finished that.
Thank you. Thank you, Harshad. I think Krishji himself at times has mentioned that you should go slow and write down your thoughts, whatever happens, how many thoughts you had, right from morning till evening, and write them down, then read it. Can that also be called a method? I think it is a kind of method to slow down. So Krishna himself did suggest this kind of thing. So there's nothing, I mean, it's not that if you follow a method, you become enlightened, but it certainly quietens our mind. So that point of view, I think there's nothing wrong in doing this.
I can maybe make a comment if nobody wants to.
Yes, please
Otherwise,
go ahead.
yes.
Please go ahead.
Yes. Now, what happens many times, why Krishna ji is talking against psychological dependence on gurus? Because what happens that if the guru, something goes wrong with the guru, maybe the guru goes to jail or does something criminal act, then all the disciples will also get the effect and they will get depressed because they have invested everything in their guru. And that is why Krishna ji did not want anybody to depend on him. And that's why he was saying, be a light to yourself. Don't attach, don't create images about me and live in those images, but look at yourself, what is happening, and learn from direct observation. And of course, what he was saying was very, very marvelous, especially in commentaries on living, the one-to-one dialogue which he had with people of many background, different background. It really helped me very much to look at myself. So Krishnaji is depending on, but even then, in 1979, when I felt some kind of freedom, and I was imagining that how great Krishnamurti is at this age, and he has such clarity, and I had maybe an image about him, and one day I had a dream, and in that dream I saw, that was in 1979, in the dream, I saw that something has gone wrong with Krishnaji and he has gone mad. And people who were around him, they all were shocked. And they said that if Krishnaji would live with this madness, then nobody will read his books. So they killed him. And then they were taking the body to be burned. And then again, Krishnaji woke up from death and started shouting. And so they killed him again. And then I got up from my dream. And then I felt that Krishnaji was telling, don't get attached. You be a light to yourself. Anything can happen, because it happened that something was discovered about Krishnaji's life, private personal life, and many people got disturbed. But I was not disturbed because I knew that if the happiness is within us, it cannot be taken. If there is a clarity, that clarity makes our life happy, healthy, creative, and not dependence on anybody. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Harshad bhai. Yes, Verma sir, please unmute yourself.
Actually, since there is time and a lot of time is there, methods, we were talking about methods. Method will work only in those problems, with those problems which are mechanical nature, which are of mechanical nature and repeatable. Although even in mechanics, I don't think anything is repeated exactly the same. In what we consider as mechanical, going to our house this way and that way, thinking it is the same. No, it is not the same. So wherever repetition is of any value, then method, usually somebody can give you a clue about it, mechanical stuff. But our day-to-day problems are ever new, not necessarily problems, but the challenges, not even challenges, the way things are happening around me, in me, are always changing. So nobody can, even that's why Krishnaji said it so loudly, clearly, that you have to be light unto yourself. This is fairly clear. So I don't think any discussion is required for this methods or no method. For anything happening in, it's such a dynamic flow of life. In that flow, are we waiting for someone to tell us what to do? I don't think, and anybody faces it as such. But somehow mixes things like this, ki somebody can tell us to straighten our ways. So this is what it is. Every fresh challenges and energy. He is talking especially about energy, whether the total energy is available with me to see or listen to. That is the thing. And if there is in any form the center working or the self working, then the dissipation is continuous, whether I know about it or not, so that the total energy will not be available to. This is understandable. So these are very simple things. If you can understand it, then it does wonders every day, every month, it solves so many problems when you are attentive. She also talked about, Zimbalist talked about attention ultimately. Even Michael Mendiza, ultimately to simplify, he said, it is attention. Are you attentive at that very moment? Simple enough. Attention means almost no self. Almost I say because I don't know exactly, but self is largely absent at that time, and you are attentive. Attention doesn't mean concentration, that also he has, because there is no particular thing, no particularities looked for by myself. So everything is seen as such. That's all. And it goes on changing, and me along. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, Prasad Garu.
Sir, if you are giving me 1 or 2 minutes.
Please go ahead.
When I said different methods to become a wise man or whatever, I didn't mean a particular discipline. What I thought was, it is like anybody. You can be, even in tradition, a butcher becomes a wise man. So anybody, a businessman, a butcher, anybody, lawyer, even though Krishnaji didn't have much respect for lawyers, a lawyer or even a soldier whose business is to kill, anybody can become wise. That is all I meant, not that he would follow a particular discipline, hard routine and all that, not like that. So, for some of us who were not in the inner circle of Krishnaji, nobody was in his inner circle, but somebody lived closely with him. We didn't live closely with him. We were not so much kind of under his spell, like Mr. Rajesh Dalal or Mr. Narayan. They were under his spell, and they overinterpreted each word of Krishnaji. And ultimately, possibly it became an imbalance. Instead of living life, they lived life in terms of Krishnaji. That became possibly an upsetting influence. So we didn't have that danger. For us, Krishnaji is only one aspect of life. He is not our entire life, like that. So there was no danger for us to be obsessed with him or anything like that. And sir, what the so-called contradictions between his teaching and his life, for us, they are not like contradictions. Like Shakespeare said, there are many things under earth and on earth and under heaven, which are not dreamt of in your philosophy. Like that, life is not unidimensional. It has so many contradictions. It contains a bit of mysticism, a bit of realism, a bit of science, a bit of all these things. So Krishnaji may be advocating skepticism this moment. Next moment, he may say, there may be forces, mysterious forces working for my protection, or sometimes against me. We may find a little bit of contradiction, apparent contradiction, not real. They're all part of life. Similarly, his life, certain incidents in his life, we all know them. They like in the shadow of Krishnaji, all those things. They're all part of life, and it makes him dearer to us, at least for me. It is so human. Like British boys pulled his hair, when he was an adolescent going about in London. These are all part of life. And so I find no contradiction between his life and his teaching. They're a unity for me. Okay, sir. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasad. I fully agree with you. When I read that book for the first time, written by Radha Radgopal Sloss, I just said, my God, he's also a human being, because I had put him on a different pedestal. So I fully agree with the Krishnaji. There was no difference in what he talked and how he lived his life. There is absolutely no difference. I entirely agree with you.
Thank you, sir.
Since there are no questions and we have 8 minutes left, so I'll just close it and announce that next Sunday we'll have Dr. Yes, Harshad Bhai wants to say something. Okay, so we'll hear Harshad Bhai. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Bhai,
yes.
And then close, yes.
Yes, Prasadji mentioned that even a butcher can become enlightened, and actually it happened. Mr. Derek, who comes to Rishi Valley every year, he's a trustee of Krishnamurti Foundation of England, and he was actually a butcher. And one day when he was killing a chicken, he saw something in the eyes of the chicken, and he felt something, and that was some kind of enlightenment for him. And he is very much interested in Krishnamurti, but he doesn't talk about Krishnamurti. He tells many stories, very interesting stories for children, and there is some deep meaning in the stories. So I just reminded me when Prasadji talked about a butcher, and he started his restaurant with the name Butchers and Enlightened Butchers Restaurant in England. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we come to the close of our talk now. Next Sunday, we'll have Mr. Dr. Rajaram Kudli. He has spoken before this group earlier also. So next Sunday at 11 o'clock, he'll be talking on sorrow, compassion, passion, and inevitable cycle in actuality. So if you're free, please do join us. Till then, good night. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you very much, Dubey sir.
Thank you, Jan sir.
Please end it. Modern